Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will discuss the 7th chapter of the economic survey, that is gender and son meta preference is development itself an antidote. So what is meant by antidote? Antidote means remedy. Usually when poison is consumed, antidote is given, means in order to nullify the effect of the poison, it is given. So in this lecture, we will discuss about gender and son meta preference from the point of view of economic survey. In the introduction, we will see that India's performance has increased on 14 out of 17 indicators regarding the women's agency, attitudes and outcomes. But which all areas needs improvement? It is employment, use of reversible contraception, son preference. So these three areas needs improvement. And also there is a significant heterogeneity in India, which means different states are performing differently on this issue, that is gender and son meta preference. So if we take the example of northeastern states, they are not financially well off or they do not have much resource base. But what is the situation when it comes to gender and son meta preference? In this regard, they are a model for the rest of the country. So from that we can say that the financial resources or prosperity of a state is not the reason or not the factor for determining gender and son meta preference. So development and son meta preference are not associated. So this is what we can say from the northeastern states example. And when it comes to southern states who are considered to be prosperous states, they do not do well in this regard. So when we consider the development level of the southern states, they are not performing well in this gender indicator. There is a challenge of long-standing gender issue in these states. This issue of gender preference has led to two main issues in India. One is missing women and the second one is unwanted girls. So this concept of missing women was put forward by Professor Amartya Sen. And what is the concept? It says that there is a shortfall in the number of women relative to the expected number of women in a region or country. And this is a result of decrease in the sex ratio at birth. So what is sex ratio at birth? The number of girls born for every 1,000 boys or male. So because of the decrease in sex ratio at birth, it has led to missing women in the country. And this issue has led to skewed sex ratio in India, and this has led to gender inequality. If we take the global gender gap report, which is prepared by the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Index, the rank of India is 87 out of 144 countries. And second issue is unwanted girls, or what we call as son meta preference. It means that parents will continue to have children until they get the desired number of sons. And if suppose a girl child is born and the parents were expecting a boy child, this girl child is the unwanted girl, which means lesser resources will be devoted for this girl in the form of education, healthcare, etc. So this is the concept of unwanted girls. And it is estimated that there are around 21 million unwanted girls in India. We will discuss this concept in detail in this lecture. Also in this lecture we will discuss about the government's initiatives in order to overcome this issue, like the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, mandatory maternity leave rules, etc. So all this will be discussed in this lecture. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page. Also the previous lectures on economic survey, the YouTube links are posted on my Facebook page. Coming to the introduction, the government has launched Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. It is an information campaign. And there are certain objectives for the government when the government launched this information campaign. Let us see what are the objectives of the government. First of all, to improve the child sex ratio. The child sex ratio is favored for the male children. So in order to improve the child sex ratio, the government has launched this information campaign. And another objective of this campaign is elevating the role and status of women. So women is considered to be inferior to men, and it is a male dominated society in India. So in order to elevate the role and also the status of women, not only in the family but also in the society, workplace. So the government has targeted to elevate the role and status of women and bring them as equal to male counterparts. So that was another objective. And thirdly, this campaign was launched as a response to prominent incidents of violence against women. We have seen in the newspapers every now and then there is in one way or other some violence takes place against the women. And the Facebook campaign was also there, Me Too campaign. There we have seen that many women responded to it, and it shows, it is a clear indication that many of the female are victims of violence in one form or the other. So these three were the broad objectives of the government when they launched the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign in 2015. This was an information campaign. Through this mass campaign, the government had targeted to create awareness and also to change the social norms. Basically, in India, the violence against women or favor for male is because of the attitude. So attitude of Indians should change. This is an attitudinal problem, and through the campaign the government was trying to bring in some awareness that can change the attitude. So awareness campaign was launched. The real question is that, is India the land of empowered women as imagined by Subramanya Bharati, or the land of helpless oppressed women described by Maithili Sharan Gupta? So this is the question. On one hand, in India we have the empowered women group. We have many examples of women who have shown themselves as empowered, who has come out of all the odds in life and became successful. But on the other hand, there is a group of women who are helpless, who are vulnerable, who are oppressed. So what is the real India? That is the question. We must say that even though a group of empowered women represents the women, it is only the minority. The majority belongs to the second category, that is helpless, oppressed, vulnerable. So as the country moves into the path of development, this issue must also be considered, because development is not only growth but also social indicators must change. So this is an important issue and government must try to sort out this issue. And there is evidence that if women attains empowerment, and there is strong evidences from cross-country examples that if the women in a society are empowered, this will lead to economic growth. So women empowerment is associated with economic growth. And how does this empowerment come? This should come from assuming political power to women, public status, and also equality in opportunity, equal participation in the labor force. Through all this means, women empowerment can be attained. And women empowerment is directly linked to economic growth. More the women in a society is empowered, the society will have more growth. And it is also evident that especially in developing countries, the working women will contribute or invest more in the schooling of their children. If in a family, if the mother and the father, if both of them are working, the children will get more education. That is, if the female counterpart is also contributing towards the family, it means the children will get more education. This is also evident from cross-country examples. Here two indexes are given. One is the Global Gender Gap Index that is prepared by the World Economic Forum, and the second one is Gender Inequality Index that is prepared by the United Nations Development Program. This we will discuss later in this lecture, but keep this in mind, this is very important. This can be asked in objective type questions. Which agency is responsible for preparation of this and this index, or sometimes the name of the agency will be given and some options will be given. You will have to choose the index which is prepared by the agency. So Global Gender Gap Index is prepared by World Economic Forum, and Gender Inequality Index by UNDP, or the United Nations Development Program. Gender equality is multidimensional, and the assessments, the analysis made in this chapter are based on three specific dimensions which we have already discussed in the beginning. Three factors are taken into consideration. One is agency, second one is attitude, and the third one is outcome. What is agency? It means women's ability to make decisions on reproduction, spending on their households, their own mobility and health, which means the decision making capacity or the freedom to take decisions in a woman's life, that is agency. And attitudes relate to attitudes about violence against women, wives, the ideal number of daughters preferred relative to the ideal number of sons. So the attitudes are measured under the second dimension. And third one is outcomes. This relates to son preference. So how is this son preference measured? This is measured according to the son meta preference, which means this is measured by the sex ratio of the last child. So what is son meta preference? As we said, son meta preference means parents want at least one son, or they will keep on having children until they get the desired number of sons. So if the sex of the last child is male, what does it indicate? Since the parents have got a male child, they have stopped reproducing. So this is the indication. So the outcome is measured by the sex of last child, because if the sex of last child is male, it is a clear indication of son meta preference. And also female employment, choice of contraception, education levels, age at the time of marriage, the age of childbearing or the age at which the first child was born, physical and sexual violence experienced by women, all these are taken into consideration in outcomes. Now, considering these three dimensions, let us see what are the conclusions or main findings of the survey. Under these three dimensions, one is agency, second one is attitude, and the third one outcome. So under these three dimensions, there are certain subcategories as well. So all this will lead to 17 indicators. So including the subcategories, it is 17 indicators. And now let us see what are the findings. Out of the 17 indicators, 14 relating to agency, attitude and outcomes, India's score has increased or improved over time, which means we are showing a upward trend. It is increasing. And out of this 14, in the 7 indicators, India's score is comparable with international standards, or we can say that they are better than or in par with other countries. So 7 indicators are doing really well. And when we say with time we are improving, what does it imply? It takes a lot of time for India to reach the targeted level. Why? Because this is basically a problem with the attitude, with the behavior. So this problem is deep rooted in the Indian economy, Indian society. So because of this target cannot be achieved in a short period of time. It is a long process. So gender parity is a long process for India, mainly because of the attitude or behavioral change that is expected. You cannot change the attitude or behavior of a person in a particular day. It takes a long process. So same has happened here also. Now coming to certain indicators specifically, the first one, the role of women in decision making regarding the household purchases, visiting family and relatives, there is a progress. And secondly, there is a decline in the experience of physical and sexual violence. This is basically because of the policies of the government, and also because now women are getting more aware of their rights. So this has reduced the number of cases where there is physical and sexual violence against women. And also thirdly, the education level of the women are increasing. But one thing we must remember here is that when we compare the education level with the level of development, they are not in par. So according to the development of the country, education levels have not improved, but still there is an improvement in the education level. Some indicators that need development or better performance, one is women's employment. Women's employment has declined over chronological time. So this indicator needs improvement. And secondly, use of female contraception. This also needs improvement. So coming to the female contraception, nearly 47% of women do not use any contraception. So here also some improvement is required. Another finding is that there is evidence of convergence. What is meant by convergence? Convergence means the process by which we are trying to reach the development. So convergence basically or literally means joining, or we are converging. The process of convergence here means that we are joining the target of gender parity. So we are on the way to achieving this target. This is the fourth finding. And fifth finding is that there is considerable variation within Indian states. We said in the beginning that different states in India are performing differently, and one exceptional example is northeastern states. They are not well off, they are not very prosperous, but when it comes to gender parity, they are well performing and they are a model for the rest of the country. And when it comes to southern states who are considered to be more prosperous, states like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, etc. are worse than expected in the level of development when it comes to gender parity. So from this we can conclude that prosperity and gender parity are not connected. So if a state is prosperous, it doesn't mean that the more will be gender parity. Sixth finding is that development is not providing an antidote for the son preference which is existing in the society. So what is antidote? We have seen it is given as a remedy. So development should come as a remedy for the son preference. That is the ideal situation. But in case of India, even though we are moving ahead in the developmental process or developmental path, it doesn't come as an antidote for son preference. So in developed countries or international examples show that when the development of a country is on the increasing pattern, it should reduce the son preference in the economy or in the society. But in India's case, it is different. Still, we have a son preference. The society is favored for a son. So because of this reason, sex selective abortions takes place, and this has led to skewed sex ratios at birth. So sex ratio at birth means the number of girls born for every 1,000 boys. And this skewed sex ratio has led to the problem of missing women in India. So it is estimated that around 63 million missing women are found in India, which means the sex selective abortion has led to missing women. These women were not born. So this is the one impact of son preference on the society. Sex selective abortions leading to skewed sex ratios and thereby missing women. And another finding is that there is 21 million unwanted girls in the society. This has happened due to son meta preference. So we have already seen what is son meta preference. Son meta preference means that parents will keep on having children until they get the desired number of sons. And this meta preference has led to the concept of unwanted girls. And it is estimated that there are 21 million unwanted girls in India. So what is this unwanted girls? Those parents who wanted a boy or a male child but instead they had a girl, and these girls are referred as unwanted girls, and the parents will devote lesser resources in the form of education, healthcare, etc. to this unwanted girls, and this will pull down the empowerment or development of these girls. So as we said, all this has arisen because of our issues with attitude and behavior. So this has to be solved first. And what are the government initiatives in this direction? First of all, the information campaign Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao has been launched by the government. Again, the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana has been launched. And thirdly, the maternity leave, the mandatory maternity leaves were inaugurated by the government. So these three are important steps that are focused on addressing this challenge. So what is Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao? As we said, this is an information campaign of Government of India. And the aim of the campaign is to generate awareness and also to improve the efficiency of welfare services intended for girls. These are the objectives of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And second one, Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. So Sukanya Samriddhi account is a Government of India backed saving scheme. So this is a saving scheme wherein which the parents of girl children can start account in the name of the girl child, and this fund can be used for the education and marriage expenses of the girl child. So education and marriage. There is discrimination against girls because girls are considered to be a burden to the family, because at the time of marriage girls needs to be provided with dowry, and even though parents educate girls, they consider that the girls will move out of the family and will be living in the husband's family. So there will be no earning for the own parents or own family if they are educated. So all this are there. So in order to improve the situation, the government has started this scheme and parents can start savings account, and this can be used for education and marriage of the girl child. Government contribution will also be there in this accounts. And third one is mandatory maternity leave. The PDF of this lecture is available on my Facebook page. The previous economic survey lectures are also available on my Facebook page. We will continue with this chapter in the next lecture. Thank you.